Judkins shredded the Dolphins for 3 touchdowns. Myles Garrett dominated with sheer defensive force. But despite these standout performances, Cleveland's offense sputtered, and at the center of it was Dillon Gabriel again. Under pressure, Gabriel missed throws, stalled drives, and looked out of sync from the opening snap. Kevin Stefanski had a choice: inject life into the offense with Shedeur Sanders or cling to a game plan that clearly wasn't working. He chose the latter, and that decision now hangs over the franchise like a storm cloud. Analysts aren't just questioning the move, they're questioning the judgment behind it. What's becoming clear is that Cleveland has reached its tipping point. The defense is playoff caliber. The run game is explosive. But without a quarterback who can lead, improvise, and execute, the ceiling stays low.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Sanders offers exactly what Gabriel hasn't: composure under fire, agility in chaos, and leadership that rallies teammates. The time for patience has passed. Every week Sanders stays sidelined feels like a vote for stagnation, and the weight of that choice is only growing heavier. Kevin Stefanski has officially crossed into dangerous territory, not because of a losing record, not because the locker room has imploded, and not because of some massive scandal, but because he's showing the one trait no team with real playoff aspirations can afford in a head coach: paralysis. The Cleveland Browns walked away from their game against the Dolphins with a win, and yet no one's celebrating it. No one's hyping up the momentum. Why? Because everyone's too busy talking about the quarterback that didn't play. The quarterback that should have played. The quarterback that fans, analysts, and even people inside the league believe could be the key to unlocking Cleveland's offense. That quarterback is Shedeur Sanders. And the reason the offense struggled through another game of stagnant drives and missed chances is because Stefanski is clinging to Dillon Gabriel like it's 2020 and nobody's figured him out yet. Spoiler alert, they have. Defensive coordinators aren't guessing anymore. They're attacking the same flaws over and over. Pressure him early. Collapse the pocket. Force him to read beyond his first option. He doesn't respond well. He hasn't. And against Miami, it was more of the same: confusion, missed throws, and wasted drives. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders stood on the sideline again, helmet strapped, fully healthy, watching it all unfold. That's why the backlash isn't just noise, it's earned. People aren't reacting emotionally to a loss. They're reacting logically to the fact that the Browns had an opportunity to take a big step forward and their head coach refused to make the one move that could have pushed them there. This defense, led by a dominant, game-wrecking Myles Garrett, is too good to be carrying this much dead weight. They're out there forcing turnovers, locking down top-tier receivers, wrecking offensive lines, and doing it for 4 quarters straight. Against Miami, they made a legitimate contender look like they forgot how to run an offense. It was that dominant. And it didn't matter. Because on the other side of the ball, Dillon Gabriel was doing everything in his power to give the game right back. Let's talk about the contrast. You've got a defense playing with ferocity, precision, and pride. You've got a running back in Judkins who just ran all over a fast, physical Miami front and racked up 3 touchdowns. He was electric, breaking tackles, finding seams, dragging defenders like it was personal. And all of that effort was undermined by the fact that the passing game was so dysfunctional, it barely looked like it belonged in the same stadium. You can't keep asking Judkins to put up video game numbers just to keep the team competitive. You can't keep asking Garrett to bail out the offense every week with sacks and turnovers. Eventually they'll hit a wall. They're human. Even elite defenses can't sustain that kind of pressure game after game. The reality is this: the Browns' offense is broken because the quarterback play is broken. And the fix isn't buried in a trade. It's not in a future draft pick. It's already on the roster. And Kevin Stefanski is too stubborn to use it. That's why this moment feels bigger than a quarterback decision. It's a leadership test. It's about whether this coaching staff has the courage to admit that what they've been doing isn't working, and the humility to pivot when the season still has time to be salvaged. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't just the popular choice. He's the logical one. He brings leadership, confidence, improvisational ability. He brings movement, flexibility, and the ability to make something out of a collapsing pocket. The fans see it. The media sees it. The defense sees it. Judkins definitely sees it. So why doesn't Stefanski? That's what has everyone so furious. Not that Gabriel was given a chance, but that he continues to get every chance with nothing to show for it. Gabriel wasn't benched. He wasn't pulled. He wasn't even challenged. And that's the problem. Because when a coach refuses to adapt, Even when the numbers, the tape, and the mood in the building all point to the same conclusion, it's no longer about football. It's about ego. It's about fear of disruption. It's about protecting a decision you made months ago, even when it's actively hurting your team. And this kind of loyalty? It's not noble. It's costly. It's costing the Browns consistency. It's costing them offensive balance. And it's costing them the trust of a fan base that has stuck with this franchise through some of the ugliest football in the modern era. Cleveland fans know when something isn't right. They've seen dysfunction dressed up as continuity before. They know what it looks like when a team refuses to change because someone's afraid of the optics. And that's exactly what this feels like. Because no one is arguing that Shedeur Sanders is guaranteed to succeed. The argument is that he hasn't even been given a chance. Not one series. Not one look when the offense clearly needed a jolt. That's not football. That's fear. And it's starting to seep into everything. How do you think the receivers feel running routes that don't get thrown? How long can the offensive line keep absorbing criticism for protection breakdowns when they know half the problem is that Gabriel doesn't move? This isn't sustainable. And it's not fair to the rest of the roster. It's not fair to the coaching staff trying to adjust. It's not fair to the defense dragging this team through the mud every week. And it's definitely not fair to Shedeur Sanders, who's shown up, stayed ready, and waited for the opportunity that just never seems to come. The Browns are at a crossroads, and not just in the win-loss column. They're at a crossroads in identity. Do they want to be the team that plays scared, clings to old plans, and burns a playoff-caliber defense in the name of continuity? Or do they want to be the team that takes the leap, makes the bold move, and opens the door to something better? Because if they keep walking this path, they know exactly where it leads. A wasted season. A fractured locker room. A coaching staff under fire. And yet again, a city left wondering what could have been. It doesn't have to be this way. Stefanski still has time to rewrite the story. But that window is closing. Fast. All he has to do is trust what's right in front of him. Shedeur Sanders. The spark this offense desperately needs. The leader this team deserves. Let him play. Let this team breathe. Let the locker room believe that the best player will get the opportunity. Because if not, if Stefanski doubles down again, and this offense continues to sputter under Gabriel, he won't just be criticized. He'll be remembered as the guy who had the key to fix everything, and refused to turn it. Hit like if you're done watching this offense crawl while the defense carries everything on its back. Drop a comment and tell us, do you think Sanders should start next week? Or are you still holding out hope that Gabriel can turn it around? And make sure you subscribe because whether Stefanski wakes up or not, the next few games are going to tell us everything we need to know about where this team, and this coach, are really headed. Kevin Stefanski is running out of places to hide. Because while the final score may still read W, the reality for the Cleveland Browns is much more complicated than wins and losses. What's playing out in real time isn't just a questionable quarterback decision. It's the unraveling of a season that still has so much left to offer. And the only thing standing in the way? The head coach's refusal to adapt. At this point, the numbers are irrelevant. The film says it all. Dillon Gabriel is not the quarterback to take this team where it needs to go. Not with the current pace. Not under pressure. Not when every down feels like a crisis. And it's not just about execution, it's about confidence. Rhythm. Presence. 3 things that Gabriel simply hasn't shown when it matters. And it's not like he's being asked to carry the offense. He's not. The defense is already doing the heavy lifting week after week. Judkins is exploding out of the backfield, lowering shoulders and changing momentum every time he touches the ball. The Browns aren't short on talent. They're short on leadership under center. And that's a Stefanski problem. The Dolphins game was the final warning shot. The game where the Browns defense suffocated one of the most dynamic offenses in the league and still had to sweat out every drive because the offense couldn't sustain anything through the air. If Judkins hadn't gone nuclear, we're talking about a loss. And even with his heroics, fans walked away frustrated. Because it didn't have to be this close. It didn't have to feel like survival. And yet Shedeur Sanders, the player who could have flipped the momentum, never touched the field. Not one snap. Not one series. Stefanski didn't even blink. That decision? It's now the centerpiece of every conversation about this team. And it should be. Because it wasn't just a tactical mistake, it was a leadership failure. When you refuse to make the most obvious adjustment in the playbook, not because of injury or matchup or scheme but because of fear, it shows. The team feels it. The locker room notices. And the fan base? They've had enough. They've watched this team claw its way out of irrelevance. They've lived through coaching disasters, quarterback purgatory, and empty promises. And now, just when the roster finally has the pieces to matter, they're watching it get sabotaged from the inside. This isn't about building for the future. The future is now. Myles Garrett is in his prime. Judkins is on fire. The secondary is playing lights out. The defense isn't just good, they're playoff good. And the offense is still handcuffed because Kevin Stefanski is too committed to a quarterback that doesn't scare anyone. And that's what's killing this team, predictability. Defenses know how to contain Gabriel. Bring pressure. Take away the short throws. Force him to move. Force him to improvise. He can't. He panics. The offense sputters. Rinse and repeat. Shedeur Sanders is the exact opposite. He thrives under pressure. He extends plays. He brings energy to the huddle. His confidence changes the tone of the offense. And the fact that Stefanski has refused to even test that dynamic? It's negligence. It's one thing to be cautious. It's another thing to actively ignore the one move that could lift your entire season. What makes this worse is that no one's asking for a revolution. No one's asking Stefanski to abandon the run game or change the team's identity. All people want is for the quarterback position to match the intensity and talent of the rest of the roster. And right now it doesn't. The Browns are dragging a quarterback who can't keep up, and the cost is adding up. Every 3 and out. Every missed opportunity. Every stalled red zone drive. It all stacks on the defense. It all saps momentum. And the more Stefanski waits, the louder the backlash gets. Not just from fans, but from media, from former players, from everyone who knows what this team should look like. And still, radio silence. No accountability. No explanation. Just more of the same. And that silence? It's not calm. It's indifference. And nothing makes a fanbase boil faster than feeling like their head coach doesn't feel the urgency. This is no longer a developmental debate. This is no longer a case of waiting to see how things unfold. The stakes are here. The playoffs are on the table. The talent is already delivering. And the Browns still have no idea what Shedeur Sanders could do because their coach refuses to find out. It's almost surreal. Teams across the league are desperate for a quarterback with Sanders' potential. Cleveland has one, sitting, waiting, fully capable, and they won't use him. And for what? To protect Dylan Gabriel's confidence? At what point does Gabriel's leadership become a liability? At what point does loyalty become a cage? Because Stefanski is trapping this offense in a system that cannot grow, cannot evolve, and cannot compete at the level this roster demands. Let's be clear, Sanders doesn't need to come in and be perfect. He just needs to make the offense functional. He needs to give the defense room to breathe. He needs to help Judkins by taking pressure off the box. He needs to give the receivers a shot at making real plays. And most importantly, he needs to bring belief. Because that's what's evaporating right now. Belief. In the coach. In the plan. In the direction of the team. That's what makes this so dangerous. The Browns aren't collapsing because of talent. They're fraying because of stagnation. Because nothing is changing. Because the people in charge are acting like time is on their side. It's not. The locker room knows. The players know. The fans know. The front office? They're watching too. Because if Stefanski doesn't make this change soon, it won't just be Sanders on the bench. It'll be the entire season. There's a choice to be made. A simple one. Not easy but clear. Continue protecting a quarterback who's proven he can't deliver, or unleash the one player who might. Not a guarantee. Not a savior. Just a chance. A real chance. Shedeur Sanders is that chance. The question now is whether Kevin Stefanski has the guts to take it. Because if he doesn't, he's going to find out what it feels like when the entire city turns on a coach who refused to fight for their team's best chance at success. If Kevin Stefanski doesn't make the change, then what exactly is the plan here? Keep limping through games, relying on the defense to play out of their minds every week? Hope that Judkins magically scores 3 touchdowns every Sunday just to keep them within striking distance? Pray that Gabriel finally figures it out, after how many weeks of showing the opposite? At some point, it becomes delusional. And that's what's happening now. Coaching decisions driven not by data or game flow or locker room dynamics, but by denial. Denial that the team has already outgrown the quarterback under center. Denial that this offense has no identity beyond Judkins running through brick walls. Denial that Shedeur Sanders might already be the answer they're too scared to test. Let's call it what it is, fear. Fear of making the bold move. Fear of admitting a mistake. Fear of rocking the boat. But here's the truth about boats. Sometimes they need to be rocked. Sometimes you're headed for a waterfall and the only way to survive is to change direction. Fast. And right now, Cleveland's offense is heading straight toward that drop. And Stefanski? He's sitting at the wheel pretending everything's fine. It's not fine. You don't get outgained in the air game week after week and pretend it's a game plan. You don't bench a quarterback with legit star potential and claim it's part of a long-term strategy. You don't ride the same ineffective starter into the ground while your defense plays like champions and say you're being patient. That's not patience. That's paralysis. Meanwhile, you've got a guy like Shedeur Sanders who wants the moment, who's built for the moment, whose entire career has been about rising above expectations and proving people wrong. He doesn't just bring a fresh set of skills, he brings confidence, swagger, belief. And Cleveland is starving for belief right now. Because the longer Stefanski delays the switch, the more fans are tuning out. Not because they don't care, but because they care too much and they're tired of watching this team trip over itself. They've seen this movie before. Great defense, elite pieces, wasted opportunity. It's not just about quarterback stats anymore. It's about tone, about energy, about momentum. Every time the offense takes the field and fails to convert, again, the stadium gets quieter. The body language shifts. You can feel it in the team. The belief starts to crack. Not just in the guy under center, but in the guy making the decisions. And if Stefanski loses the locker room, that's it. There's no coming back from that. You can survive a tough season. You can survive tough losses. What you can't survive is a team that stops believing in your judgment. And that's where this is headed. Fast. Because let's be real, if Sanders had started the second half of that Dolphins game, no one would have blamed Stefanski. It was a perfect setup. Gabriel was clearly off rhythm, the offense was stalling, and Sanders had nothing to lose. It was the safest high-upside move Stefanski could have made. Instead, he stayed the course and nearly sunk the ship. This isn't a rookie versus veteran debate. It's a question of production. And Gabriel just isn't producing. At least not at the level this team needs. They don't need a game manager. They need a spark plug. They need a field general. They need someone who doesn't just play quarterback, but leads, commands the offense, sets the tone, puts defenses on their heels. That's Sanders. Is he perfect? No. Is he guaranteed to succeed? Of course not. But the question isn't, will he be perfect? It's, can he be better than what we're watching now? And the answer is yes. Unequivocally yes. Because what we're watching now is an offense with no direction, no explosiveness, no fear factor. It's a one-dimensional grind with no vertical threat, no play-action bite, and no quarterback mobility. Sanders fixes all of that. And Stefanski knows it. That's what makes this situation even more frustrating. He sees what we see. He watches the same film. He talks to the same locker room. He knows the offense isn't working. And yet, he does nothing. What's the point of having a talent like Shedeur Sanders on the roster if you're not going to use him when it matters? What message does that send to the rest of the team? That no matter how bad things get, changes won't be made? That loyalty is more important than performance? That comfort beats competition? That's how you lose a team. That's how you waste a season. And Cleveland cannot afford to waste this one. Not with Garrett dominating. Not with Judkins becoming a star. Not with a defense that's giving you a playoff-caliber foundation every week. They don't need miracles. They need a quarterback who can just keep up. They need Sanders. This crossroads isn't theoretical anymore. It's real. It's now. And it's turning into a defining moment for Stefanski as a coach. Because if he makes the change, and it works, he's a leader who had the courage to adjust. If he sticks with Gabriel, and the offense continues to sputter, he's the guy who let fear ruin his best roster yet. There is no in-between anymore. You've got players grinding every snap. Fans buying in. Media attention climbing. The door is open for a postseason run. But only if the offense can stop being the anchor that drags everything down. So what's it going to be? Are the Browns going to keep pretending this offense is just a few plays away? Or are they going to face reality, take the leap, and give this team a real shot at greatness? The fans are waiting. The team is watching. And the clock is ticking. And the most painful part? It didn't have to be this way. Kevin Stefanski has had every chance to pivot. Every reason. Every excuse built in. A struggling offense, mounting pressure, a locker room ready for change, a fan base literally begging for it, and still he sticks to the same script. The loyalty to Dylan Gabriel has gone from confusing to maddening. You don't have to be a football analyst to see it. It's right there, drive after drive, quarter after quarter. The moment defenses send heat, Gabriel folds. He holds the ball too long, misreads coverages, checks down when deep shots are open, and worst of all, he plays scared. And that kind of quarterback play doesn't just kill momentum, it kills belief. And that belief is barely hanging on. Because let's be honest, no one wants to see another wasted year. Not with this kind of talent. Not when Judkins is playing like a man possessed. Not when Garrett is looking like Defensive Player of the Year material. And definitely not when Shedeur Sanders is on the roster, fully healthy, fully capable, and fully ready. He's right there. The one guy who could inject life into this offense. The one guy who could take pressure off the run game, stretch the field, and give defenses something new to deal with. The one guy who hasn't had a chance, because the coach won't let him. It's not about coddling veterans anymore. It's not about waiting for the right moment. This is the moment. The Browns are staring down a stretch that will decide their season. There's no more time to waste. No more patience left in the stands. No more support for a quarterback who just can't get it done. So Stefanski, it's on you now. You can double down. You can ride the same plan into another fourth quarter panic. You can keep ignoring the spark that's been sitting on your bench for weeks. Or, you can finally pull the trigger. You can put in Sanders. You can give this team the chance it deserves. And if you do, if you trust your roster and your gut instead of your fear, you might just save the season. Drop your thoughts below. Should Stefanski finally let Sanders take the reins? Or are we doomed for another week of deja vu? Like the video if you're done waiting. Subscribe if you want to see whether this team chooses courage or comfort. Because whatever happens next, it's going to define everything.